Live, the gates are just opening at the North Dakota Horse Park. It's the first races of the year. The first post time is set for an hour from now, and for fans, riders, and the horses, temps are in the mid-80s at this time as our stretch of extreme heat is off and running. Let's begin our coverage of the weather with our chief meteorologist, Hutch Johnson. Hutch?
Mike, thank you so much, and good afternoon on your Friday here in the Valley. We started the day very wet. In fact, some of us, even in the Fargo area, getting upwards of 2 inches of rain. It was a little more than that in the Barnesville area. Climbed the ladder up into Hunter. 4.45 inches of rain reported falling into a rain gauge. So this is where it was actually measured. Here's a look at the areas in between the rain gauges where it fell as well. Where you see the greens and yellows, that's over an inch of rain. In the blues, it's under an inch of rain. So you can see a couple of large swaths of heavy rainfall. Notice the reds here on the county line with the Trail County and Cass County. 4 to 5 inches of rain estimated right here. That went all the way down into Lakes Country near the Cormorant Lakes area and whatnot. 3 inches of rain there into northwestern parts of Otter Tail County, and a good 2 inches near the Crookston area from storms that trailed their way through the Grand Forks area. Tonight, storms way off into the Big Sky Country of Montana. The heat is on. In fact, we have 90s in Lakes Country right now. Mid 80s here in Fargo. We're going to stay in the mid and even upper 80s briefly before slowly seeing temperatures fall. Looks quiet for your outdoor activities tonight and muggy, but overnight more thunderstorms could be in the offing. Yes, they could be strong. Have hour-by-hour details on that. We'll track our heat wave, which looks even hotter to me than it did yesterday for some of us. I'll spell all that out in just a few moments. Mike?
All right, thanks so much, Hutch. Europe is baking in the heat. Italy's in the middle of a severe drought that threatens some of the country's most famous food exports. Chris Livesay reports from an Italian region that's running out of water.
We shouldn't be able to walk here.
This is foundations of bridge, and there was also a river port here.
Ancient Roman ruins in Rome's Tiber River dating back nearly 2,000 years, now revealed by a heat wave and Italy's worst drought in 7 decades, says Professor of Urban Planning Tom Rankin.
The water normally is up to our waist or shoulder height at this point, and now I'd say it's gone beyond the wake-up call.
Some towns are now rationing water, and Rome could be next.
Now, there's a trick to getting a good drink out of these Roman fountains. But that's only if you get here in time. The city is considering shutting them all off if the drought worsens.
Experts blame global warming. This month in the Italian Alps, 11 climbers were crushed to death when record temperatures caused part of this glacier to collapse. Downhill in much of Italy's north, the heat and drought have left rice fields for risotto bone dry, and the Po River Valley, which produces 40% of Italy's food, like pasta and wine, now in a government state of emergency. In the Rome countryside, the alarm is audible.
I can hear the grass crunching beneath our feet.
The Petrucci olive orchard has crafted exquisite extra virgin oil since the 1600s. But the drought has turned its future into a row of tombstones.
Half are dead.
Half are dead.
And this is one of them.
Yes.
Sabina Petrucci now has to truck in water.
What does this mean for people who want to buy good olive oil?
We will ask a lot more for the final product price.
So higher energy costs and the drought mean higher prices at the grocery store.
Yes, we have to think about all this business, even if it's a family business since forever.
So after centuries of making olive oil, this might be the end?
Yes.
And solving these problems have just gotten a whole lot more difficult. Last night, the Prime Minister of Italy tendered his resignation after one of the biggest parties in the country pulled its support from his government. So that means things like the environment and the drought. Let's just say they're not Italy's only emergencies. Chris Livesay, CBS News, Rome.
New at 4, the Minnesota State Patrol investigating a crash on westbound I-94 in Moorhead. It happened around 2 o'clock this afternoon between the Main and 34th Street exits. What appears to be a blue SUV had extensive damage, with the front of the vehicle lodged under a semi-trailer. The back end of that vehicle was also heavily damaged. The State Patrol says the extent of injuries has not yet been determined. A multi-vehicle crash in the same area injured several people yesterday. The interstate in Moorhead is down to 1 lane in both directions. Traffic is slowed due to road construction. Also new at 4, a woman facing multiple charges after allegedly hitting and punching a 15-year-old girl. Police say it happened at a townhome on Bellesley Boulevard late Wednesday night. They found the victim hiding in a bedroom as she told officers that Pamela Roach was aggressively changing a child's diaper. When the victim told Roach to stop, she allegedly hit and punched the victim repeatedly. Roach admitted to losing her temper and slapping, punching, and pulling the victim's hair while she yelled at the girl. Documents state she faces 1 count each of malicious punishment of a child and domestic assault. Starting next Tuesday, fully vaccinated travelers arriving at Canadian airports will again be subject to random COVID testing. If selected, they'll be required to take a COVID-19 test either at the pharmacy, a testing site, or through self-swab. Unvaccinated travelers will still have to continue routine testing on the 1st and 8th day of their 14-day quarantine, according to the release. In the case of a positive COVID-19 test, the agency requires a 10-day isolation period from the date of the test result. As for its land borders, Canada will continue to have mandatory random testing upon arrival at the border. U.S. President Joe Biden met with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman after arriving in Jeddah earlier today. Biden's visit is being watched for body language and rhetoric as Washington seeks to reset relations with a country he once pledged to make a pariah on the world stage. During his visit, the president discussed human rights, one of several issues that has strained ties after U.S. intelligence concluded the Crown Prince directly approved the 2018 murder of Washington Post columnist Jamal Khashoggi.
I made clear that the topic was vitally important to me and to the United States. I said very straightforwardly, for an American president to be silent on an issue of human rights is this inconsistent with who we are and who I am. I'll always stand up for our values.
Energy supply and security cooperation are also set to be discussed during the president's visit. The Democratic-led U.S. House voted today on 2 bills that would protect abortion access, 3 weeks after the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. But it's unclear whether the bills would pass the Senate and make it all the way to the president's desk. Skylar Henry has the latest from Capitol Hill.
The Democratic women of the House gathered on the steps of the Capitol.
The bill is passed.
Moments before the chamber approved a bill aimed at restoring abortion rights previously protected by Roe v. Wade.
Every person deserves dignity, safety, and care in seeking an abortion.
The Women's Health Protection Act prohibits states from imposing limits on abortions that would make them more difficult or costly to obtain.
The majority of Americans do not support abortions with no limits.
The Supreme Court overturned Roe, creating a domino effect for a number of states to ban the procedure.
Mid to late term abortion is a barbaric procedure which can include dismemberment of the baby and crushing of the skull.
The House also passed a separate measure prohibiting states from interfering with a woman's right to cross state lines to obtain an abortion. On the House floor, some Democrats cited the case of a 10-year-old girl who was forced to travel from Ohio, where most abortions are illegal, to Indiana to get the procedure after being raped.
According to Republicans, even a little girl impregnated by a brutal rape should be denied an abortion and have to endure government-mandated birth.
Both measures are likely to fail in the Senate, where 60 votes are required to advance legislation.
With 2 more Democratic senators, we will be able to eliminate the filibuster when it comes to a woman's right to choose.
President Biden has said he supports changing Senate rules to codify abortion rights across the country. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Last week, the Biden administration took executive action to try to protect women who cross state lines to seek abortions and is exploring other further federal steps. Absentee voting for the August 9th primary is underway in Minnesota, and election officials say there are important rule changes to keep in mind. This year, you will need a witness signature on your absentee ballot. The requirement was waived in 2020 because of COVID. Also in 2020, your ballot had to be postmarked by Election Day. This year, it has to be back by Election Day.
This time around, there's no extension past Election Day. It needs to be in order for it to be counted.
This year is also the once-in-a-decade redistricting year. That means thousands of voters will find themselves in new districts and even new polling places. A Horace, North Dakota man escaped a frightening lightning strike, but his pickup was totaled. That's Jason Remark's vehicle going up in smoke. It happened yesterday in Fisher, Minnesota. After it was hit by lightning, Jason was able to get out unharmed. Here's a traffic alert if you are heading home to West Fargo, or for those of you that might be heading out to the Red River Valley Fair. A lane is closed on eastbound Main Avenue, west of 4th Street South. That's near the post office and McDonald's. It's going to remain closed until next Thursday for work on the north-south bikeway. And on I-94 in Moorhead, we've talked about this work on guardrails. Traffic is down to one lane in both directions, causing traffic backups during peak travel times like now. In addition, as people take alternate routes, traffic may move slower on University Avenue South and 52nd Avenue South in Fargo, and on 60th Avenue in Moorhead to 8th Street's roundabout. Plan extra time. In fact, in some cases, quite a bit of time if you're going to be in those areas.